Welcome back. I'm Pat, that Halloween movie collector, and I'm back with another one of my top 10 favorite albums of the 70s. This week we're doing 1973. This was a real tough one. Actually was a lot more than I thought, or I remembered rather, in 73, and it was tough to whittle these down. So this is, of course, each list I do, there's a lot of, there's different styles and different genres. Just because I've mentioned before, I like everything. Make no apologies for it. I don't like one single lane. I just like all different styles of music. And when we did 72, we got a lot of positive feedback. I also got a lot of people complaining, like, oh, why wasn't this on the list? Oh, why isn't this on the list? But you got to remember, this is my specific taste. That's why I say, look, throw your list in the bottom. Because a lot of those albums I probably left off this list probably would have made a top 20. So top 10s, that's why I like to do top 10s. Top 10s are not as easy because you can't fit everything in. It was tough to do 73. So if I did a top 20, a lot of the albums that you would expect would be on there. And I got some comments that were saying, well, it's very generic. Well, this isn't something I'm doing to make it seem like I'm some intellectual by pulling out obscure bands and be like, oh, this is obscure, go listen to it. No, this is simply what I like. And I figure engage with people that can comment below and tell me what you like. Maybe it's stuff I haven't heard. Give me some ideas, and I'll go investigate it. So that being said, let's do my top 10 favorite albums, 1973. So my number 10. Yeah, probably going to get a lot of shit for putting this at number 10. But it's one of those, I'm a fan of this band. A lot of the songs on this album are a little overplayed for me, but I had to put it on this list because it's a big part of my youth. I just remember listening to this all the time, especially when my brother was a big fan of this band. So released on March 1st, 1973, Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. One of the biggest selling albums in history of any genre. Now, it's just here simply because I do like it. I love everything. Actually, Money was the first guitar solo I ever learned on a guitar. I actually sat and learned note for note. Was the solo to Money. Big David Gilmour fan. Comfortably Numb, another one I had to sit down and learn how to play the solo to. There's a lot of great stuff on here. I mean, it's one of the most iconic albums in history. It's only at number 10 because it's simply, when I sat down, what I do when I do these lists, I take a whole bunch of albums and I just put them in like my favorite. Like, what do I listen to more? And I listen to this a lot. That's what I almost fought with another one or two other albums I put on this list to almost bump this out of there. But I'm like, you know what? I have to put this in there for sentimental reasons, just because I was still am a big David Gilmour fan. It's got Money. It's got Breathe. Time, Us and Them. Classics. I mean, you're going to hear them every day on classic rock, and probably simultaneously on every time, like when you hear a song on a radio station and you click over and the same damn song is playing on a radio station, that's Pink Floyd. Always is. And that may have been why this is at number 10, because I'm so oversaturated by listening to radio. I don't listen to a lot of terrestrial radio, truth be told. At work I usually do, but in my car and at home it's always satellite radio or my own mixes. But I had to put this on there. Dark Side of the Moon, number 10. My number 9, released on July 26, 1973. ZZ Top's Tres Hombres. You probably noticed from this and going forward, big Southern rock fan. Love it. Love the Allman Brothers. Love Skynyrd. Love Molly Hatchet. Love and adore ZZ Top. So I had to put this on here. From the iconic LaGrange to Waiting for the Bus to, of course, one of my favorites of this album, Jesus Left Chicago. Billy Gibbons, one of my favorite guitar players. I play in a cover band. We do a shit ton of Southern rock where I live. This big Southern rock community, so we do a lot of Southern rock, and I just love it. It's fun to play. That's the best thing. It's tough for people that are not guitar players. Southern rock songs, especially like Skynyrd and the Allman Brothers, or ZZ Top, or even Molly Hatchet. It's fun stuff to play. It really is. So I had to sneak this on here. You're probably going to get a couple more ZZ Tops as we go along through the 70s, because I'm a big fan. My number 8, released on August 13th, 1973. Sticking with that Southern rock, right behind it. The debut of Leonard Skinn, pronounced Leonard Skinn. Another one that I just absolutely love. I mean, I played Give Me 3 Steps, which is on this album, 8,000 times. But you know what? Every time we play it out, when we're playing a gig somewhere, I just have so much fun with it. It's such a fun song. From the iconic Simple Man to iconic, I mean, come on, for Christ's sake. This is the album that gave us Freebird, which you'll hear at every concert. Somebody go, play Freebird. Or every time we play a gig somewhere, there'll be somebody in the back, play Freebird. Tuesday's Gone is another one of my favorites of this album. So, yeah. Southern rock, Skynyrd, stellar. Absolutely stellar debut album. My number 7, released on February 27th, 73. Now we're going from Southern rock to the opposite spectrum with Alice Cooper and one of my favorites, $1 Billion Babies. What's there to say? He's already been on, I think, almost every one of the 70s album countdowns I've done. Alice Cooper's been on them so far. And this is no exception. You have $1 Billion Babies, which is a great song, Elected. And you have, this is the album that gave us No More Mr. Nice Guy, which you're going to hear on Classic Rock Radio every day. Another favorite, standout, Hello, Hurrah. Love that song. And number 6, released on January 5th, 1973. This is the debut album from Aros Smith. Aros Smith. Gave us one of the, another one staple you can hear on Classic Rock Radio every day, iconic Dream On. But there's a lot more fun stuff on here, like Mama Kin, Making It, Walking the Dog. Just, what I like about that album, it sounds so stripped down. It's produced, but it's not overproduced. It almost sounds like, this album sounds like a demo. And I love it for that reason. It's stripped down and so raw. It's not overproduced, and it sounds like a young band, hungry, and look what they became. And number 5, released on February 7th, 1973, exactly 1 year and 1 day after I was born. Iggy and the Stooges, Raw Power. Now this is, or you just want to call the Stooges Raw Power, but of course, if you look at the LP, it says Iggy and the Stooges because he became such a standout character in the band that all of a sudden it was Iggy and the Stooges, which, I'm sure pissed off the Ashton brothers and whatnot, because it was basically the Stooges, but they had to put Iggy in front of it. Some standouts that Give Me Danger, Raw Power, Death Trip, and of course, probably, one of their most famous songs is Search and Destroy. Song I love to death, and it's been covered so many different times. But, and that's, we already did. See, who else? TVI made this list. But Love Me, Iggy and the Stooges, and probably going to be some Iggy solo moving forward as we go through the 70s. My number 4, released on March 28th of 73. Of course, they've been on every list so far, and as they should be. Led Zeppelin's Houses of the Holy. Another album from my youth that was just one of my favorite albums of my youth. Love me some Song Remains the Same. Dire Maker or Dear Maker, however you want to pronounce it. The Ocean, Over the Hills and Far Away, it's right there in the pantheon of Smoke in the Water, Iron Man, of intros that you have to learn how to play on the guitar as a guitar player. The Ocean, there's so much on this. It's just another. You just look back at some of these albums of these iconic bands, and I've said it before in some of these other entries. It's like, where did they get this stuff? It's so crazy how it just reads like a who's who of classic rock. Unbelievable. And I'll do it like I did the last three previous entries. We'll go down the list and see who's in the Rock and Hall of Fame, because I'm picking albums and everybody's in the Hall of Fame. Not to say the Hall of Fame is to be all stale, because they're kind of a little out there these days. But it's just nice to see that some of these bands are recognized for their contribution. My number 3, released on July 7th, 1973, one of my favorite bands, one of my favorite albums, the New York Dolls. Their debut album, the New York Dolls. Now, they're an acquired taste. I get it. Super uber influential, because if you go back and listen and just look at them, who they've influenced, it's unbelievable. It's an absolute travesty that they haven't made that Rock and Hall of Fame, being nominated several times. But this was one of my favorite albums. I listen to it all the time in my car. It's just, from there, I mean, of course, they had no radio airplay. They never had any big hits. I mean, they were famous in '73 for, I think was it Cream Magazine? I think Cream Magazine voted them the best new band of '73 and also the worst band of '73. So I think it was the only first time the band ever got the worst, best and worst ranking because they were sloppy as all hell. But that was part of the charm of them. David Johansen's vocals were great. You had somebody who's going to probably appear later on as a solo artist. I was a big Johnny Thunders fan, and who we lost way too young. And they, of course, they all imploded because of their bad habits, because they were all big drunks and they were all into drugs. You know, it's sad to see that there's only one person left, which is David Johansen's the last man standing. Now, the band did have different incarnations where they came back and had different members in the band, but the original Fearsome Fivesome is one of my favorite bands of all time. Love the Dolls. On this album, you have Personality Crisis, you have Subway Train, Trash, and probably my favorite song from the Dolls, which is Jet Boy. If you haven't listened to the Dolls, go check them out. You'll be surprised what you hear from that era that led into the 80s and beyond. My number 2, released on February 11th of '73. Now, these bands are going to keep flip-flopping. Starting with my last episode, you're going to see that these two bands, which are two of my favorite bands, are going to keep flip-flopping for number 1. That's what I'm predicting so far, until Kiss probably appears on this list. So, my number 2, Tyranny and Mutation from Blue Oyster Cult. Another one that's in my top 5 bands of all time. I have to do one of my top 5 bands of all time. And like I said, this is all subjective. I don't want to hear, well, why isn't this on the list? That's not what this is about. This is about me saying to you guys, this is my favorite. Now, comment below and let me know your favorite, because I'm interested to hear it. It's all subjective. So, Tyranny and Mutation is just like the first BOC album. It's very eclectic. It's very sci-fi-ish. And it's very taste-driven. Like, you have to be into it to really enjoy it. They got a little bit more mainstream as they went along, but the early albums were really out there, and that's what I love about it. It was just like, fuck this, let's just go out there and just come out with some crazy shit. From Hot Rails to Hell, OD'd on Life Itself, Mistress of the Salmon Salt. There's so many weird named songs on here, but if you listen to them, just some stuff that I listen to all the time. I'm always listening to Blue Oyster Cult in the car. And the best part of my love of Blue Oyster Cult is I've turned my son into a Blue Oyster Cult fanatic. So he's probably the only 22-year-old kid of this generation who's a diehard Blue Oyster Cult fan, who drives around with a Blue Oyster Cult license plate on the front of his car. And my number 1, released on December 1st of '73. Another one that's either been number 1 or number 2 so far through these lists. Black Sabbath's Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. Don't know what I can even say about this album. How much I love this album and how much amazing content, song-wise, that Black Sabbath was putting out. I mentioned on the list, I'm like, they must have been selling their soul to the devil to be putting out this type of stuff that they were doing. I remember getting this, the first time I got Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, if I remember correctly, was on 8-track. And I always remember the tracks, for those that are old enough to remember 8-tracks, they would always stop in the middle of a song, they'd fade, and you hear it click into the next one, and it'd fade back in. I always remember it fading in and out during Sabracadabra, and was it Looking for Today? This would drive me crazy. So it was great when I finally got the LP that I didn't have to listen to. You're like, oh, this is great. Then he's like, yeah. Those remember 8-track tapes. They're cool collectibles to have now, but they were just not the method of choice to listen to music back in the day. And sometimes they would also alter the way that the songs were laid out versus vinyl. But Killing Yourself to Live, Sabracadabra, Looking for Today, and of course the title track, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. I don't even know what to say about this album. And unfortunately, from here, you get another album or two out of Sabbath that's really good. But then, of course, they start to get a little... If you know the story of Sabbath, it's just going to go down a little bit. But I do like some of their later releases in the 70s that weren't as popular as the early releases. But I love them. And we'll get to them as we go forward. They may not make number one, but they're probably going to be up there in the top 3. And there you go. That is my favorite 10 albums from 1973. Tell me, like I said, this is all subjective. If I left something off, it's merely because it's not. Maybe it would have made my top 20. It's not that easy to do a top 10. Tell me what you chose. Throw them in the bottom. Because there was a lot of good shit that was released in 73 that people are going to, oh, why'd you leave Springsteen's album off the list or Billy Joel Piano Man? Good stuff. But there's only so much you can fit into a top 10. So it's all subjective, and it's basically based on your taste. That's why I said, throw me your top 10 of 73 in the bottom. Be like to see where it goes from here. And while you do that, do me a favor, smash that like button. Hit that like button. Helps people find this channel, get some more music people in, give me some of your lists. We'll keep going through the 70s. Once we go through the 70s, we keep going through the 80s. The 70s from 74 on is going to get a little bit interesting for me because, as you guys know, if you want to follow the channel, aside from Halloween, I'm a big Kiss fanatic. So 74, you're going to see the appearance of Kiss's debut album. Will it make number 1? I have to go research 74 to see what else came out from the top of my head. And may or may not make it. Just because I'm a big Kiss fan doesn't mean it's going to make my number 1. Because I love a lot of other music. So let's see what happens. And when you hit that like button, just go a little bit over here. Hit that subscribe button. Don't cost nothing. And come back and enjoy some more of these lists. I'm just thinking about some other ones where we might do some movies. Maybe some albums. Rank the albums of certain bands that I like. This is just fun stuff. This is just me getting this out and having fun with this and connecting with other people. Because my wife doesn't want to hear it, that's for damn sure. Or neither does my kids. So I can hang out with you guys and enjoy this. So do me a favor. Like, subscribe, comment, all that happy horse shit. And I'll see you a week or two for 74. Until then, talk to you soon.